me start recording. Good morning, Predicted Trades family. This is March 9th, Wednesday morning prep. And man, what a wild day we had yesterday. Let's see, we talked about pre-market, that we had some squeezes setting in. Going to provide a gauge on the day. We drop right to the bottom of the 30-minute 1 hour. We had the daily squeeze as well. That provided the support we needed to get going. We ran right to the top of the 30-minute 1 hour squeeze, got through for a second to tap the daily 8, and right back down to the bottom of the squeeze. Then overnight, what do? We go all the way to the top of the squeeze. So, going into today, we have our range set. We also kind of have a weekly range that has been set. Monday's high is up above, up by the daily 15, around 43.12, 43.20. And we have our lows as we start to push to the top of this squeeze. There's a couple of things that can happen, right? We can hit this squeeze in the daily 8 again and redirect back down. We like to teach, play off of these squeezes. They work more often than not. And yes, there are those times when we get through a squeeze, right? But not usually when they're thick like this. It's usually once they've thinned out that we start to dump out or pop out of a squeeze. So this is going to be a lot of resistance today. And I know we're up a lot and it looks like we're just going to keep on ripping, but we are up almost an ATR on everything. Let's take a quick look. Yeah. We are, call it 70% of an ATR up. Pushing further is just going to hit that full ATR. Can we have a 2 ATR day and get like a full reversion of the mean? Totally can happen. We have had those days, right? But just looking around the market, gauging sentiment, we still have CPI to come out this week. We still have Ukraine looming over us. We still have gas prices. We still have all these issues. So we are not back in a bullish market. Overall point being, we have our range today. As we get to the top of the squeeze, I'll be looking at the puts. They'll most likely be gapping down to Beast. Just like these calls closed in Beast yesterday. Now they're gapping up to the highs. They're probably going to take profit. Puts. So as we hit the top of this squeeze, I'll be looking at puts. If and only if we get through and hold 42.80 and try to push, will I be looking for call side? And yeah, if we start to slip and find footing at some of these zones, then I'll also look to go long. One thing I did want to cover, because I did cover it yesterday, let's step back out to the weekly. So, just like I talked about, we have a range on the week set. In between that 43.20 down to 41.40. So let's just see if we end up settling into this range and having some inside days. Wouldn't be surprising. It's been a little wild lately. We could easily just end up chopping in between the levels that we are now at, right? I wanted to also step down to the daily. because we are in this daily squeeze. It is still intact as we came back down and set in a higher low. Now we are popping back today. We have our means above. And the daily squeeze is starting to thin out. We can still very easily reject the means and come back. Reject the means and come back until this daily squeeze fires down. And we start to see more correction. I talked about it yesterday, but if you go review these on the weekly and measure the COVID drop, we haven't gone as far as that was. And we have, this war looming over us. We still have COVID to deal with. We have more room to the downside to even equal that same 30% drop that we saw on these names, right? If we go to NQ, same thing. I talked about we can get way down to here to equal a 30% drop. So, just all things to keep in mind. But obviously, we like to preach, don't overthink it. We've got a good bounce off the daily squeeze bottom. We're almost back to the means. We already rejected the mean yesterday on ES. We rejected the mean a couple of days ago. Much like we've seen when there's a level of support, price action can oscillate as it gets tighter, 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 and then breaks one way or the other. And that's kind of what we're getting into now, having this low that was set, having a higher low. We are probably going to keep setting in lower highs until this comes to a wedge and then breaks one way or the other. But let's step back down. Going to be the same story on everything today, getting near the tops of these squeezes. So, going to be watching yesterday's high, which is now going to be right with the daily 8, providing a very key zone. If we reject that hard, coming back down, if we can get through and hold it, we can push off of it to get back to the highs of the week, right? Which is also close to the 15, just like on the day, just like on ES. So we'll see. We have our range set. We'll be watching Beast today. Most of the puts going to open near Beast. Most of the calls closed at Beast. Got our gap up. So let's see. Wouldn't even be surprised for just a small pullback to hold some level from overnight. Some key level that we rejected and are now above and should act as support. So just because we are at squeeze top and could get a pullback does not mean it has to come all the way back down to bottom, although it absolutely can. We could find our footing somewhere like VWAP or a key level and start a slow grind while these squeeze clouds get thinner, 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 and release, right? But overall, we have a 1 hour, 2 hour up above to keep an eye on. And once we get to there, and maybe yesterday's high or the daily 8, I'm kind of expecting some rejection and pullback. But we could just simply get into the clouds and not even to yesterday's high and reject. So either way, you kind of know the theme of the day. Ready? All pretty much going to be the same story. I will say that the ready is closer to its daily mean. And as I've talked about in the last few preps, the ready has been holding a tighter range, and it has been kind of reacting first in a way. It sold pretty hard and fast on Monday, Yesterday, it did not go back to revisit any lows, only a slight slip, and then took off. So it's been kind of a nice front running gauge in a way for all the indices. So it may arrive at the daily mean first, and if we get a hard rejection, we might see the same rejection over on ESNNQ at the daily 8, the same time we're seeing the ready reject the daily mean. If it can get through the daily mean and through these squeeze tops, it does have, I'm guessing, a 4 hour, yep, a 4 hour here, kind of halfway between the daily top and bottom. So it could even slip through the mean to get to this 4 hour top. 4 hours squeezes can be a great reversal. So, key things to watch on Ready to the upside. See if this trend holds, and if any of these points of resistance above cause us to break the trend to the downside. YM up 500. Let's just compare. Oh, Ready's up quite a bit more percentage-wise. So let's see, maybe Tech wants to try to lead today. YM, very close to its daily 8, might even get there pre-market, which is not far from yesterday's high. So also going to be a great gauge because it could arrive first. Then we'll see if we get our rejection at those points. Other than that, I'd say watch some of these key levels to the downside. If it starts to slip, it could hold this little overnight high or low, which obviously aren't the pre-market high-low. Moving on, Apple. Got close to this key 155, huge number. The 200 is still below for Apple, and we're in a steady downtrend. I draw a trend line from the highs. The trend tool is kind of providing one, but look, here we are on a wedge. From this week's highs, this week's lows, we could just settle into this wedge. Let's see if it pops through pre-market. I'm sorry, if it can break through pre-market or at open and keep moving, or if it rejects, comes back, goes to visit bottom. We will see, but this wedge on Apple is going to be very big today, and it aligns with the squeeze top and bottom. Apple is, as we teach every day, the best gauge for tech. So let's see if it can get out of this wedge. If it rejects the top and sends us back down, holding the bottom would be a consecutive higher low, which would allow us to again push up. And I talked about this pre-market with Herb, but this is what they love to do. They get us down to something key like this daily squeeze bottoms. They love to pop it up, see that it works, take some profit, bring it back, load back up, pop it up again to something key, take profit, bring it right back, load up again, pop it up again. So they've kind of had a couple of take profits to the upside. Wouldn't be surprised for another one before continuing to the upside. It's gonna be kind of like the kangaroo market. As we fight our way back to the mean, then we're going to get some key answers, either a rejection that sends us all the way back down, a slight rejection, and profit taken to load right back up. But all things to keep an eye on. Watch this wedge, going to be key today. Amazon, same kind of dealie. Kind of getting through its wedge just because we don't get much overnight action on Amazon. So let's see if the squeeze top and the psychological 2800 become a huge point of rejection. We also have yesterday's high, a hair above 2800. If we can't get through there, we're coming back down. This 2739, kind of right in the middle of the wedge and in the middle of highs and lows. Could provide a bounce point. If we lose that, heading back to lows. Oh, sorry, I skipped over AMD there. AMD, bottom of daily squeeze, right back up. Provided some great return yesterday, and I remember seeing a whole block of AMD calls land in beast zone in our alert channel before taking off. So already up near yesterday's high, which aligns with the squeeze top. So AMD will also be a good gauge, especially for chips. If they want to try and be strong and lead the market up, they definitely got to get through. Sorry, Herb, you're not on mute. Let me just take care of that for you. There we go. So, AMD gonna be a good gauge. I'm sure chips will kind of pop and look strong early like they like to do. Let's see if it can get through yesterday's high at this 110 and keep on pushing. Or if it rejects and starts heading down, could be a great gauge for tech. Alright, I'm going to try and get through the rest of this quickly because apparently there's a meeting in the room next door that's kicking off and they're loud. Let's see. Facebook, great hold of third Keltner down, barely wick below. Another reason we track the Keltners, third Keltner down or third Keltner up, great reversal points. Great point to go long yesterday. If you picked it up there, looking at like the 190s, you probably barely dealt with any drawdown. I did check in on those and they hit beast. Took off way in the money when it topped out. Looking strong, near its high already from yesterday. So let's see if it can continue the trip up to the daily 8 and the 200. Key point of rejection above. It looks like on Facebook no squeezes in place just because it dropped so hard. It obliterated all of them, yeah. Google held bottom of what I'm assuming is daily, daily squeeze. Once, twice, and took right off. You could see pre-market yesterday that it went down to tap daily squeeze, so that can be a great sign that cash session, let's retest that. And that is the point you want to go long, right? That's kind of why we review these things and look at pre-market highs and lows, pre-market action, how it interacts with our Keltners, our moving averages, our squeezes, that kind of thing. So you see this tap pre-market, you should expect a retest, and if it holds, that is the point to go long on the day. You would not have dealt with any more drawdown and had a great trade. Got this nice wedge on Google on the week, providing a great gauge. So let's see if it can get through 2620. Daily 8 is probably going to step down to about where we're rejecting. So let's see if we can get through. If we head back down, I want to see it hold this wedge bottom to continue to the upside. If it gives out, heading back to lows. Microsoft slipped a little further out of its daily squeeze than we'd like to see. Got down to the low, right? But held it and bounced. Now we're trucking up, so let's see if we can continue in this channel as we are already out of the wedge. And let's see if we can get back to the daily 8 and the squeeze top above, or if we see a little profit taking, continue holding this downtrend to keep going. Netflix. On Monday when everything dropped, Netflix did a good job of trying to hold up. Yesterday, squeezed bottom, held up, rejected. Kind of back up to where we opened yesterday. Not quite as strong as some names that are up near their highs already. So it could provide a nice catch-up trade. But what looked stronger has kind of started to look weaker as the week progresses. We are below the lows from the previous week, whereas other names are holding the lows from the gap down, right? So definitely mark this level, 354, 355, because it was the support that tried to hold us up on Monday, then it became the resistance. So this 355 could be a great spot to go short on Netflix, right back down to lows, especially if market rejects and does the same. So keep an eye out today as we push through 350. If we can get to that 355 low, watch the 350 put, the 345, 340 with their beasts. If they arrive near beast, could be a great risk. And if it, you're basically risking 355 up to yesterday's high, getting through that, it should be cut. Because it's going to try to keep on trucking up to the daily 8. Opposite to that, if we can hold the gap low at around 345, if Netflix slips or market slips, if we can hold 345, that is a great sign of support, saying we don't have to go back down to lows, and we can try to make that journey back to the daily mean. So, key point of rejection, we could go down about 15 points. Key point of support, we could go up about 15 points. If this, then that, right? Roku. Man, almost got down to 100. But it didn't fall back as hard as everything else. Very interesting, and we're already up near the highs. Roku kind of looks like it does want to get going. It only has the 2-hour intact up above. And this trend line that it looks like it kind of wants to get back to test, 124, 128. So Roku kind of relative strength compared to Netflix, kind of like Roku to the upside. Could get to that 127. I know one person that swung one of those, so that actually might end up working out for you. But ultimately, if it can't get through 120 and 124, we're not going to see that 127. But yeah, I like actually Roku to the upside and Netflix to the downside, as weird as that sounds. They don't always move in lockstep. Shop, shop, shop. Shop till you drop. Death, death, death to shop. So, I'd say it's basically short every pop. We are at third Keltner down, though, so this would be the first point where it would make sense to try to go long on shop, but definitely don't advise it. They're not going to be very nice on the premiums. But overall, if you can get through 540, you can start to make the journey back up to the pre-market high of 570 on a mission to 600, second Keltner in that last zone that we had. But if it can't get through 540 or 570, just keep on going. Penny stock on the way. SPX. These levels provided a great gauge yesterday. And as it started to form, drew this channel. We ripped out of it almost to the daily 8 and rejected back, but bounced in that channel and then tried to keep going. But once we rejected the top of the channel, I caught some more puts on SPX into the end of the day. So sometimes it's good to just leave a drawing because we respected that channel for a good portion of the day. And then it provided a nice long after that drop and a short. So, and I can drop down to a lower time frame just to kind of show you how that looks. So, basically started with connecting these two tops. Then I duplicated it and drug it to the bottom and lined it up where it made sense. At the time, I think we hadn't dropped out of it again and we started to bounce here. So I left that channel there. We work our way up, back down, hold channel, come back, hold channel. That's your entry, long. Get out, fall back in, that's your entry short. Anyhow. Back out. We did have a 30-minute forming on SPX. We are going to probably be opening near the top of it. So let's see if that 30-minute is still intact. We won't know until we start getting action at open. Then it'll connect it over. So keep an eye on that. And same thing. If we can't get through, back down, yada yada. I'll be watching 4350s, 4300s, 4250s, 4200s, that kind of thing. Spider. All very similar. Let's see if this trend line provides support if we do end up coming back. Oh, we could reject this 426 just like we did yesterday. Key level, right in the middle of that squeeze top. We could hold 420 and keep making the journey back up. Tesla. One thing I'll say on Tesla, the 700s worked out wonderfully on Monday, even though it's very far away. On Tuesday, I think they provided some opportunity, but you always need to be watching the call side because the 850s provided amazing opportunity yesterday, and kind of tells you at a point you should stop touching the ones that are very far away and outside of squeezes, right? As we are racing down, and the puts are working, the far outputs, right? Once the calls that are closer start arriving at Beast, we got to start taking attention, playing that upside. But Tesla went up very nicely yesterday, back to all this liquidity. Did not fall all the way back down like a lot of things. Already back up near the highs, and the daily mean is not far away. So Tesla could be strong out the gate, get right up to this daily mean, and we even have the 4 hour up above, right? We do still have a daily. How far out is the daily? Way up at 960 and with the daily 50. So Tesla's going to be a great gauge, going to arrive at the daily mean first and the 4 hour squeeze first to the upside. So keep an eye on Tesla rejecting that area for 860 up to 880. Rejecting that and heading down means market's going with it. Last but not least, checking on our buddy VIX. I talked about yesterday a hard rejection of 37 would mean going back down and the market could go up. We got above 37. Once we fell back below, big key sign. As the indices were at their daily squeeze bottoms and VIX loses 37, big key number, covered it yesterday in prep. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to go rewatch yesterday's prep or watch it because you missed it. You know, if you miss a prep, I highly recommend going back and watching it, even if you're a day later, because there's always important knowledge. So, 37 rejected yesterday. Huge key sign. We rallied back up. VIX drops back down. Bottom of squeeze. Bounce. Yada yada yada. Gapping down to the daily 8, where we have bounced and bounced and bounced and bounced. So we're back at the daily 8. We do have a 2-hour squeeze with the daily 15 down near the bottom of it. So could we keep falling through the daily 8? Yes. Want to see what happens at the daily 15 and the daily 21, which are centered around 30. Well, you know, centered is they are around 30. They are 30 adjacent. So we could continue this rally and this rally on the market and this drip on VIX down to 30 as VIX arrives at the daily mean. A lot of names will be arriving. Well, some names in tech will be arriving at the daily mean. Ruddy will be arriving at the daily mean. So we'll have to keep an eye. Can this trend continue and the rally continue to the daily mean? Do we reject and reverse? Or do we hold the squeeze bottom or the daily 8 and start to reverse earlier? Ending the rally, right? So very key. 30, going to be very important. 32 could hold us and send us back to 35, 37. So we have our ranges, we have our gauges, we have our beasts. No beast, no feast. Hope this prep was helpful to everybody. If this is your first time ever tuning in to Predicted Trades, please check out our website at predictedtrades.com. Same thing on Twitter at Predicted Trades. We provide the best prices to get in and out of options on a daily basis. Yesterday, I'll go back to a spider. Yesterday, some folks hit some puts out of the gate. Then we hit calls. Then we hit puts. Calls, puts. Each time we were hitting the turn, we were hitting beast numbers, getting great entries and returns. So, I hope you guys have a great day. Good luck, and we'll see you in the room.